Okay, this is part 2 of ShandraLa. So, Chapter 3, For Every Action. Popping out of the water to what lay beyond the shimmering veil, ShandraLa gazed with wonder at the king's world, which she had always dreamed about, with curiosity and anticipation. As her butterfly wings took her up away from the water to the land of the king, she saw morphed people all around, laughing and singing, riding on the backs of frogs and squirrels and even birds as they went about their business. Suddenly she noticed her mother and grandmother coming to meet her, with bright smiles and outstretched arms. On their heads, nestled in their beautiful flowing hair, rested delicate sparkling crowns. Their faces glowed, and beautiful shining dresses draped their young and sprightly forms. Enveloping ShandraLa in their warm embraces, they greeted her with laughing happiness. "Come," her mother said, "you must meet the king before we take you to see the place he has prepared for you." Fluttering through the woods, they told ShandraLa about the towering trees and the colorful flowers and everything they saw along the way, until they arrived at the clearing, which was filled with a shining golden palace. Gently landing on the golden street that led up to the palace entrance, they walked up to the beautiful iridescent gate. Passing through into the palace courtyards, ShandraLa's eyes were filled with beautiful sights. Fountains surrounded by greenery and colorful flowers, fruit trees of every kind, and even a sparkling river running out of the palace, along the gold pavement and out through another gate, greeted her delighted gaze on every hand. Finally they entered the palace and were cordially greeted and escorted to the king's throne room by the king's gracious servants. Rich purple curtains flanked the crystal windows that were encased by golden walls and mosaics of colorful gems. A vast marble floor, streaked with green, stretched out before her towards the king in his enormous throne. On seeing her coming, the king smiled and reached his hand out towards her in a beckoning gesture. As ShandraLa came closer, she could see the tender love and a warm welcome in his eyes. Well done, my child," the king said to her with delight in his voice. "Come in and enjoy the eternal pleasures that your excellent service to me has won for you." Feeling a little dazed, ShandraLa stepped forward and said, "What have I done for you?" The king smiled. "Whatever you did for even the smallest of my beloved people, you did it for me. Remember how you bravely risked your life to save Tierra? That was for me. You risked your life to save me as I lived in her. All the times you served the elderly in their times of need, that was done to me. Your patient, gentle teaching to the little ones, it was patience and gentleness shown to me, as well as the kindness of passing on what you knew to others for their use. The compassion you felt for those who were perishing because they didn't know me, and the resulting actions you took to help them, that was for me. You had compassion and helped me. The loving nurturing and teaching that you gave your own children and grandchildren, that too was service to me. Everything you ever did for people was a service to me, and in return, as a token of my appreciation for all you have done for me, I pay you richly for eternity." As he spoke, the king rose from his throne and took ShandraLa by the hand, leading her from the room out into a balcony nearby. On the balcony wall rested an enormous golden telescope. Carefully pointing the telescope in a certain direction, the king motioned for ShandraLa to come and look. Lightly stepping up onto the pedestal by the telescope, ShandraLa rested her eye next to the eyepiece. She caught her breath when she saw through it the most beautiful house she had ever seen. "That is your house now, ShandraLa," the king informed her. "Your mother and grandmother will take you there and show you around." As ShandraLa let her breath out and stepped down from the pedestal, the king took her hand and gave it a warm squeeze. Looking into her eyes, he said, "Thank you for caring about my prized creation, people. Thank you for nurturing and causing them to thrive, for giving them a chance. Thank you for caring most about what was dearest to my heart. Now enter in and experience all the joy that you have given me." Coming up behind them, ShandraLa's grandmother and mother each took one of her hands, and together they flew over the balcony wall, away to ShandraLa's new home. On reaching the place, they lightly touched down and walked into the lovely courtyard. The beautiful shapes and colors of many delicate flowers filled her sight, along with fragrant and colorful fruits peeking out from the green leaves of the trees. In the center of the courtyard stood a fountain with a stone seahorse in the middle, out of whose mouth the water flowed into the seashell-shaped basin. Smiling dreamily, ShandraLa thought of all the hundreds of happy hours she had spent training seahorses and teaching the children all that she knew about them. Surrounding the fountain was a pavement of beautifully colored stones. "Come, ShandraLa," her mother called from the front door of her new home. "You must see the inside, too." With a little chuckle, ShandraLa left the fountain and joined her mother. Passing through the front door, she saw that the entryway floor was carpeted in a soft, rich purple, and on one side was a richly ornamented door, behind which was a small closet. On the other side, shelves were built into the wall, with mirrors backing the shelves. On the bottom shelf, which was about waist high, was a large rectangular purple rock, hollowed out with scenery in the back and people in the foreground. With a gasp, ShandraLa recognized the scene. It was of ShandraLa and Appy and their friends bringing sleds loaded down with food and building supplies, surrounded by a crowd of happy children and the people of the other water. On the next shelf up, about eye level, was another rectangular hollowed-out rock. This one was sea green, and depicted Appy and ShandraLa along with the rest of the crowd, watching the first underwater dweller morph. As her eyes welled up a little with tears, she realized that nothing she had done in her other life had gone unnoticed. Not only that, but what she had done had meant so much more to the king than she had ever dreamed. Through the next door was a gorgeous living room, with soft, thick carpet that swirled with greens and browns, and was covered with yellow roses tinged with pink streaks. The couch and easy chairs were soft and velvety, with colors that complemented the carpet. On one wall, a huge picture window with beautiful drapery looked out over her glorious courtyard. Stretched over two walls, a staircase, lined by an elaborate banister, ascended in a curve up to the second floor of the house. Beautifully colored paintings of her children and grandchildren wearing clothes she had made them, and holding the tools of skill she had taught them, adorned the other wall. Beside the stairs, another doorway led into her kitchen. Blue and white streaked marble covered the floor, with matching countertops. In the center of the kitchen stood a magnificent table, whose tabletop bore beautiful pictures of ShandraLa helping her neighbors and her elderly friends. Even the little everyday things had meant so much to the king, she now realized. If she had known that, she thought, she would have placed more value on them and done more. Through the sliding glass doors in one wall of the kitchen, she saw a walled garden, through which ran a stream that pooled in one place. Going out for a closer look, ShandraLa discovered to her great delight that the pool was home to a number of seahorses, as well as colorful fish and seaweed. A carpet of soft green grass surrounded the pool, with flowering bushes scattered here and there throughout the garden. Back inside the house, ShandraLa went up the beautifully carpeted stairs to see what was up there. A huge, soft, velvety bed occupied the central place. In the upstairs room, enormous pillows lay at the head of the bed. One wall was almost completely filled with a large half-circle-shaped window, whose rounded top edge was decoratively scalloped with colored glass mosaics in the scallops. The mosaics portrayed all the loving things that ShandraLa had done for her husband Appy through the years of their life together. Covering the wooden floors were rugs that reminded ShandraLa of the colorful pebbles that covered the bottom of the water she had lived in during her previous life. Suddenly, turning to her mother and grandmother, ShandraLa asked, "Where's Appy?" "Come and see," her mother said with a smile. Together they went back out into ShandraLa's courtyard. Passing out through her gate, her mother turned sharply to the right and led her into another courtyard. With a delighted laugh, ShandraLa saw Appy coming out of the front door of the house, with outstretched arms to meet her. She realized that the glorious house right next to hers belonged to him. Waving goodbye to her mother and grandmother, Appy and ShandraLa turned to Appy's house so that he could give her the grand tour of what the king had prepared for him. In his courtyard was the entrance to a small cave. Leading her into the entrance, Appy pointed to the right wall of the entrance, where she saw a beautiful mosaic portraying Appy and his friends discovering the dwellers of the other water and visiting with them. Back out in the courtyard, his fountain featured a stone figure of a bioluminescent fish, the kind of fish that had supplied Appy and his friends with the light that they needed to explore the tunnels and to take the sleds back and forth through the tunnels. As they entered Appy's house, ShandraLa could see that it was very similar to hers inside. One of the hollow rocks with the scenes in his entryway portrayed Appy and his friends building houses with the dwellers of the other water and telling them the stories of the king. Like the upper hollow stone in ShandraLa's house, the other stone showed them watching the first dweller of the other water morph. In the richly furnished living room, beautiful paintings of their children and grandchildren with the houses Appy had helped them build, and holding tools of skills he had taught them, adorned the wall. In the kitchen, the gorgeous tabletop bore the images of Appy helping neighbors rebuild houses and taking care of his elderly parents. The looks of gratitude and joy in the faces of the people he was helping in the pictures said it all. In the fenced area out through the kitchen glass doors, the little stream ran through with a pool in one place. Appy's pool was well shaded by trees and undergrowth and was home to a small school of the bioluminescent fish that had been his pets and helpers in his previous life. Upstairs, his bedroom window contained the colored glass pictures of his acts of loving service to ShandraLa during their years together. Back downstairs in the living room, they enjoyed a new pleasure together that they had not known in their previous life, a cup of hot spiced tea. Savoring the spices and the cream that tickled her taste buds, ShandraLa also enjoyed the new sensation of the warmth going into her body. As they sat on the soft couch enjoying the tea, they visited about their experiences, both old and new. During their visit, the topic of ShandraLa's cousin, Tiara, came up. "So where is Tiara now?" ShandraLa asked curiously. "Well, I'm not sure that you want to know," Appy began. "Her choices in life did not bring her very good things here, but I will take you to see her if you want." ShandraLa wanted to see her old friend, and she had to know what had become of her, so out the door they went. Taking her hand, Appy motioned that they would fly. Up they went, high over the treetops, until they could see nearly all of the king's land. Spotting the place where those who had made choices like Tiara's lived, they started their descent in that direction. As they drew closer, ShandraLa was a little shocked at the bare dirt everywhere. It reminded her of the other water before the people there knew about the king. Coming down to a gentle landing, Appy and ShandraLa walked along dirt streets between simple huts until they came to the one that was Tiara's. "Tiara!" Appy called from the front door. Coming to the door, Tiara greeted them with a smile. Her hut was made of old boards, stood upright in a circle, with a few openings for windows. The roof was made of grass. "Do come in," Tiara invited them. As they entered the small hut, ShandraLa noticed that the furniture looked like it had been formed from mud that had then been allowed to dry. In the center of the dirt floor was a dugout place where her fire was. Over the fire was a small platform on which she had set her teapot. Walking over to the fire and picking up her teapot, Tiara offered them tea. Appy and ShandraLa accepted, and they all sat on the dirt furniture to visit. Tiara's tea was not rich and creamy like Appy's, but it was simple in taste and warm. At a loss for what to say to her old friend, ShandraLa gazed into her teacup thoughtfully. Tiara seemed to sense what ShandraLa was thinking and smiled. "ShandraLa, don't feel bad for me," Tiara said. "I am lucky to be here at all with the selfish way I lived my life. The only thing I ever did to merit being here at all was helping rebuild my parents' house after the eel destroyed it, and that was kind of a selfish offering since I too lived there at the time." There was a thoughtful pause. Then Tiara continued, "It's actually not a bad change from what I had in my previous life. My life underwater was so cluttered with the stress of taking care of so many inanimate objects. There is no reward in taking care of the cold treasures of the previous life, only worry that something might happen to it. My life here is simple and peaceful. It's more than I deserve." Appy and ShandraLa listened thoughtfully. After another pause, Tiara added, "I do often wish that I had paid more attention to the stories of the king, though. I never thought things through enough to realize that what I did in that life had such a powerful impact on this life. More importantly, though, I didn't realize that the king was counting on me to accomplish certain things for other people. I had no idea how much it would have meant to him if I had been more aware of the needs of others and more available to meet those needs. I never gave it a thought when I heard that whatever we do for his people, we are doing for him. It just didn't connect for me because I didn't take the time to dwell on it." After that, they talked at length about their experiences, both in the previous life and in this life. Finally, Appy and ShandraLa stood to hug their old friend goodbye. Out her door they went, and away they flew into the open sky. Arriving back at their part of the king's world, Appy and ShandraLa bid a fond temporary farewell to each other and disappeared into the comfort and pleasure of their own houses. As ShandraLa walked through her new home, enjoying the beauty and pleasures of each room, she thought how thankful she was that she had understood at least enough to do what the king had wanted her to do, even though she hadn't fully understood the connection between that life and this. Although the rewards had been beyond her ability to comprehend or imagine, she had loved the king enough to think on his words long enough to act on them as he had desired her to. As she thought of her friend Tiara and how easily she could have been swayed to live as Tiara had, she felt such relief inside that she had not gone that direction, overwhelming thankfulness to the king for his words that let her know how to live and for the wonderful everlasting rewards for doing life his way, flooded her heart and mind as she sank into the peaceful softness of her bed to rest.